What's up with y'all, man? Scotty Knows back at it, talking hoops, per usual. You know the deal by now. Let's talk about the Sixers. Let's talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's talk about them. I'm not sure what the title of this video. I'm not sure what the main theme of this video is. It was initially a video to praise the Sixers, which it's still going to be a video that I praise the Sixers, and I give them their flowers for this season for the most part. But at the same time, unfortunately, I still have to address certain things about this team that I feel like should be addressed. So the title of this video is probably going to be "The Sixers Are the Sixers." The Sixers are the Sixers. So, and by that I mean the Sixers again are a pretty solid team, great roster, but they're the Sixers at the end of the day. So there's always something going on that's going to possibly hinder them from moving forward and actually reaching their full potential. So obviously the big news that struck this past weekend, or on Saturday morning, I believe, Paul George being suspended for 25 games, with the whole PED, performance enhancing drugs violation. So obviously with those types of rulings and violations, those are gonna give you suspensions up to a quarter of the season. And by the time Paul George comes back, it'll probably be like 8 to 10 games left in the season. So yeah, he's going to be highly out of rhythm. He is going to be, highly out of rhythm and just not really, it's an adjustment, because it seems like every time the Sixers have something going for themselves, it's always some kind of injury or some kind of something that's kind of getting in their way of really getting to where they want to be, and past where they previously were. We know the Sixers to be a team that can make the playoffs. They've had some great rosters. They've had Ben Simmons and Embiid, that kind of duo tandem going for a couple of years. They've had the addition of Jimmy Butler. They've had JJ Redick on the team, averaging like 18 points per game, having like a career season for them before. They've had multiple rosters. They've had James Harden at point guard for them to match with Embiid. They've gone through a lot of turnover and effort to maximize the career of Joel Embiid and to maximize how good he is and match that with the championship caliber roster. Because of course, when you have an MVP caliber player like Joel Embiid, you want to maximize that as much as possible. So now you come into a situation where a year ago, or two off seasons ago now, which is kind of, it feels like a year ago, but I get like a year and a half, whatever you want to say, a year plus. You sign Paul George to $200 million, or to a huge max signing, and then you have the emergence of Tyrese Maxey, which is great. But then you have the downgrade or the decline of Joel Embiid, and not due to him just falling off a cliff and just not playing well, more so due to his knees just giving out. So pretty much you spend all of last year not really doing much. Your main players weren't out there besides Tyrese Maxey, and the roster wasn't what it was now, or it's not what it is now. So now you come into this season, Embiid starts off slow, mainly because of that knee that's just always hindering him and holding him hostage from what he could truly do on the court. But on the bright side, you drafted a VJ Edgecombe, who's looking like one of the better rookies from this class already. On the bright side, a year ago, you drafted Jared McCain, who was one of the better rookies from the 2024-2025 season before he went down with injury. Now, of course, going into this season, he's had his ups and downs. I blame that mostly on the injury part. Just hard for him to get in a nice rhythm and flow in the NBA right now in his sophomore year, just because the injuries. I think it's hard for him to be on the court. It's hard for him to get into a nice rhythm like he was in his rookie year. But I think he's slowly starting to get back to what he was doing last year. I think it's just going to take a little bit of time, but I think he's still a player you should definitely want to invest in the future if I'm the Sixers, for sure. He gives them some lethal shooting ability and just solid scoring and guard play. So Yes, you have Jeremy Kane from last year. You drafted VJ Edgecombe this year. You have Embiid slowly starting to come back to normal form from what we saw him in his MVP days a couple years ago. And then you have Tyrese Maxey, who I think has benefited the most from all of these injuries and the depletion of the East and the depletion of the Sixers roster wise. The last 2 years, he's kind of had to do it himself. So I think he's only gotten better as a singular player himself. Individually, he's kind of turning into like a superstar before our eyes. Is he superstar status yet? I wouldn't say so, but he's for sure All NBA player. He might even make All NBA first team. Who knows? But for sure All NBA first, All NBA second team type of player. All Star, easy All Star. Supreme talented player, and one of the best guards in the East. And then you have Paul George coming back from his injuries that he had earlier in the season. He's had a multitude of like small nagging injuries, I feel like, in the last like couple months. And then he's starting to turn back to the form of Paul George that we know that he could be. His numbers might not say that exactly, but when you look at like the aesthetics of him on the court, the how the basketball looks from Paul George. Paul George is a player. The reason why we all love Paul George is because he's a player that could pretty much do a little bit of everything. He can handle the ball. He could make the right decisions. He can initiate the offense for you a little bit. He could play off the ball. He's out there to be a floor spacer and shoot the ball well. He could score individually. Two-way player as well. So he could do a little bit of everything for you, and you could put him in different roles to be productive. And that's pretty much what he was doing for the Sixers these last couple of weeks, especially kind of coming back to form, shooting efficiently. He had that big game against the Bucks, as we all know. So yeah, so you have a lot of things going for you now. You're kind of what you wished would have happened last year is finally happening this year. I feel like that the month of January was huge for the Sixers. I think we all saw Embiid's knee kind of starting to get more comfortable out there and kind of just getting healthier. His numbers are going up. He's legitimately dominating some games out there now and moving well and actually dunking the ball, which I feel like we didn't really see for the first couple months of the season. He's actually dunking the ball now and starting to get some lift, starting to actually jump. And then you have Tyrese Maxey playing at like an All-NBA level. You have VJ Edgecombe. You got Jeremy Kane starting to play better. Paul George is fitting in nicely. Things are starting to fit nicely on the roster like you kind of expected it to be for a year ago. But then again, like I said, the Sixers are the Sixers. There's always something hindering them from fully reaching where they had to be. And the unfortunate part of this is like, even though they're kind of re-emerging again, I don't think any of us would have expected them to be outright contenders again for this season. At least not for me personally, just because when you look at the totality of the roster, it's still a bit young and inexperienced. When you have still a bit young and inexperienced, and I feel like they have to get that chemistry right, kind of fine-tune certain things and still get the roster a little bit deeper as well. So my expectation for this roster was like, okay, let's see if Embiid could last a whole playoff series without missing a game or getting injured. Let's see if they could let's focus on making the playoffs and possibly winning a playoff series before we focus on the conference finals or the NBA finals. To me, this season was going to be like, okay, let's get back to the playoffs, possibly win a series. And then in the offseason, they can reevaluate, fine-tune around the edges and sharpen the edges, right? And then just like kind of work the roster back up, work on the depth of the roster a little bit during the offseason. Like the small things that matter to winning. Whatever you got to do to get this role player, that role player, whatever it is, draft well again. And then they could go into next season with an even healthier and revamped Embiid. And a Paul George that has some reps actually playing on the court with Embiid and Maxey. And then you have a year 2 VJ Edgecombe. You have a year 3 Jeremy Kane. And then you have Tyrese Maxey, who's probably between an all-star and superstar caliber player, probably most likely coming off in a All-NBA type of season. So to me, the setup for next year was going to be real important. And it's still there. They could still be a great team and contending team going into next year. But like I said, it seems like there's always something with this Philadelphia 76ers. There's always something. And unfortunately, that something usually ends up being health related. None of this matters if Embiid's knee just isn't healthy. When Embiid's out there healthy and doing his thing, we're talking about this team possibly, or we're talking about this team as one of the better teams in the NBA and being one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. So, again, there's always something with this Philadelphia 76ers team, whether it's Ben Simmons not being able to have the confidence to score and be truly effective in a playoff series, to James Harden just not really playing like how we know he could play when it comes to those high stakes moments in those big games in the playoffs, to Jimmy Butler not re-signing with them, right? To them losing to an unfortunate buzzer beater by Kawhi Leonard in the 2019 playoffs that could have sent them to their first conference finals in who knows how long. And then now, when you have pretty much coming right off of Joel Embiid's MVP season, he's always dealt with injuries, but this knee has been nagging him for like the last two and a half years or so, like two and a half seasons and whatnot. So when you look at how the Sixers constantly form these extremely solid and legitimately great and talented basketball rosters and teams, there's always something kind of hindering them, whether it's an acquisition just not playing to how they feel like they should have played or how they wish they could have played, or just something happening that's just like kind of out of their control. And right now, the main thing is the health part with Embiid's knee. But of course, just for icing on the cake, Paul George gets suspended for 25 games. And obviously, like, I feel like some of the injuries have come as a blessing, not a blessing in disguise, but like, I think with Maxey having to carry such a huge load on his shoulders this last year or so, I feel like it's just made him into a better player. I think we've actually been able to see like the number one option version of Tyrese Maxey, and he looks pretty damn good. Like he legitimately looks like a top 5 guard in the NBA, no doubt, no question. Like a top 5 guard in the NBA, and you could definitely win the NBA championship with the Tyrese Maxey on your roster, being that go-to guy at the guard position. And he's pretty much the number one option right now. I know Embiid's coming back into form, but he's pretty much the number one option for the Sixers right now, and he's kind of taking the load off of Embiid in terms of having to be that main guy that they go to. All Embiid has to do is just continue to get healthier and just play better every month, every couple weeks. Just ramp it up a little bit more, get back to that MVP caliber Joel Embiid that we all know and love, right? So. And the perfect thing about it as well with the Paul George acquisition is that all you need for Paul George is to be that perfect glue guy type of third option, right? But now, like I said, there's always something, whether it's injuries to Paul George or a 25-game suspension now. So it's unfortunate, the whole situation with Paul George and the Sixers and the 25-game suspension. I think there's always something with the Sixers. It's always the worst timing at the worst moment. So it's unfortunate. Obviously, with the whole mental health stuff and taking the wrong, I guess, medication or whatever that means. Obviously, it's just unfortunate for him because it's kind of tough to deal with mental health while at the same time having to take medication or whatever it is to help with that, for that mental health, and that whatever that medication is actually hindering you from playing on the court and doing your job. So that's kind of tough and unfortunate for him as a person as well. But at the same time, just for the Sixers and for Paul George, the timing is just always the worst timing for them. So again, I love this Sixers team. I think they're set up for a solid future with some of their drafting the last couple of years, and in the emergence of their drafting these last couple of years and their emergence of Tyrese Maxey allows them to continue to be pretty competitive. But when it comes to actually being contenders again and actually being like top dogs in the East, it just comes down to health and just hoping that no other BS happens along the way. And unfortunately, there's always something happening with the 76ers. So I love this team this year. I think they're one of they're probably my favorite watch this year when it comes to like the roster makeup and the talent. Like they just have a nice guard rotation. When you have a Jared McCain shooting the heck out of the ball, when you have Tyrese Maxey just being a legit superstar caliber player this season, and then you have VJ Edgecombe kind of being the athletic rookie that's been in clutch for them this season, and then you have Embiid slowly working his way up, and then you have Paul George being the perfect glue guy, right? They have a lot going for them. It's just unfortunate because the Sixers are the 76ers, and there's always something with them. But that's kind of my video on the 76ers, just my personal thoughts, no notes or anything, just off of my dome, off my brain. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Again, I'm Scotty Knows. I like to talk basketball, and I'm gonna see you guys in the next one.